We'll see how to read from a journal, okay? So you're expected to submit your prop by, oh sorry, it's supposed to be May, yeah? I will change this later, but you can submit your report in May. So don't really have ample time. I'm not going to give you pressure, but don't do last minute work. The fact that I'm giving you in May. So the PowerPoint that I showed you now it's found here. I will also upload our video later at some stage. So a more detailed explanation, you can find it in this Word document. But this is the one that I want you guys to submit into this link. Okay, so I'll run through to you very quickly before we move on into our presentation. So this is the report that you're going to have to submit to me. Okay, so your instructions are you have to be assigned in your groups. So basically stick to your groups of 16. And then each group has to select an article from the Journal of Experimental Marine Biology. Now I repeat, this is not the journal title. This is the journal, okay, of Experimental Marine Biology. Meaning to say, I don't want you to find journals related to marine biology. The actual name of the journal is called Journal of Experimental Marine Biology. Why I'm emphasizing this so much is because I do not know how else to explain it, but every year somehow your seniors, you will have some funny characters that will find me a journal other than Journal of Experimental Marine Biology. So because they'll put it as, oh, but this one looks more like marine ecology, so I thought it's related. No. So now I'm telling you, and I can't emphasize this enough, then the journal is Journal of Experimental Marine Biology. All 16 groups has to find articles from this journal. Your title of your journal is entirely up to you guys. However, two conditions. One, it has to be from the years 2016 to 2022. And the second part is, there should not be an overlap in titles. Everybody should have a different titles. So with this, I would kindly request that all of you go back to the spreadsheet that Irfan has done and write down your journal article titles there so that all of you will have access and will not overlap the titles. So again, you're required to submit this report by 1st of May. So I'm just going to run through this very quickly with you. I'm giving you this thing now so that at any stage prior to that, you can ask me for advice if you need. Okay. So when you're doing this journal article, this is supposed to be very easy marks, but somehow everybody gets this wrong. So when you're reading your journal article, you should have the title. Follow the title exactly as it is. Basically, it's just copying and pasting. Okay. If one cannot do that, again, I have no idea how to explain this to you. But please. And then you have the year of the paper published. What you will find interesting here is that some of these papers will have year of acceptance, year of review, year of publish. Okay. So let me run through to you what happens in the process of submitting a paper. When you are submitting a paper that, okay, you've finalized and you realize this is the journal you want to send to. When you send a paper to the journal, what happens is that it will go through a review process. Okay? In a review process, it can take months. So the day you've submitted, say 1st of May, a review might take 1 month or even 2 months. So say the review process will be, say, July. Okay? Of which they give back the paper to you. And then you will have a rectifying date, which is the day that you have made changes according to the reviewer's comments and submitted it back until it gets accepted. Okay? Accepted means that the paper again has looked through one more review to realize, okay, this is good as it is. However, it's not published yet. So what the editorial board of the journal has to do is, it has to design the journal such that it fits into the journal's style of writing, and then it will publish it either physically, hard copy or softly online. That is the publish year. So the year here that I'm talking about is the published year. Please take note. And then you have volume. So you will have a few numbers in the journal. Again, you have to go and find and check it out. Usually the what do you call this? The susunan, the arrangement of it is such that it will be the number volume. The series sometimes will be in bracket, and then the pages. But now newer journals now they don't particularly have pages 1, 2, 3, 4. Some of them have a code, say example starting with E, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something like that. So you can either put pages like such 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can put the code. And then keywords, every paper will have its own set of keywords. You should be able to find it in a journal and write the keywords of that journal, not your own, your decipher of what the keyword should be. It's not from the article title. There will be a section called keywords. Find where that word keywords is and copy it there. So mind you, when you're submitting this report, you also have to submit the journal that you found so that I myself can actually check the journal and see whether you've done it correctly. Okay. Are we clear with this?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, Doctor.
Thank you. And then this part is where people also get confused. I mentioned here, write the article citation according to the reference format of the journal. Okay, so if you look at the journal for experimental marine biology, there is a way that they will write their journal. So meaning to say, it first goes with the authors, followed by the year, and then the title of the article, the title of the journal, and then volume, volume series, and then the page. Now, there are different styles of referencing format. There's APA style, etc. I do not want the APA style. I do not want the way that you write it on your final year project. I want you to write the reference based on the Journal of Experimental Marine Biology style, but for the article that you are reading about. Am I clear on this point? Okay, very good. Please, again, I'm telling you, a lot of people get confused on this side. And this is why I'm going through this one by one so that you will understand. But please, the way the reference is styled here, not APA style, I don't want APA style. Look and read how the reference style for this paper is, but write the citation of the reference based on the paper you are reading. Okay. Then the next one is to write a summary of your article in less than 100 words. So, one can easily take this from the abstract, but I do not want to encourage that. I want you to write your own summary in 100 words for the paper that you're writing. Again, no plagiarism on this part. You can directly copy the title for this, but I want you to rephrase the article, the article that you're reading here. Okay, then coming to this part of defining the problem. So basically, here you're supposed to write what are the research problems or questions in your article. Very straightforward. If you have more than one, write more. Then from that, you form your hypothesis. Again, you will have a general hypothesis. But from your general hypothesis, you have another section here, which is your null and your alternative. So your null and your alternative can be even more detailed. This is more like a generalization, but this one is really looking into detail based on the variables that you are going to control and identifying the dependent and independent variables. Again, this is not always a very straightforward answer. So I want to see where did you actually read your hypothesis directly or indirectly from your article. And then again, this is the part of understanding, identifying your variables and experimental groups. So from here, again, I have put here pertinent observation. Pertinent observation, again, something like that of Jane Goodall's animal behavioral work, or looking at whale migration, so it's hard to do an experimental approach. So if that be the case, there's no need to apply the experimental group or control group. You just have to focus on perhaps certain variables is applied for this. Okay. So, and then coming to the conclusion, this one is a little bit tricky because I want you to think more holistically. In your opinion, have the investigators addressed their research problem by providing an experimental design that is scientifically sound, thus accepting alternative? And would you suggest a different approach? I would really want to see how you give criticisms for this paper. Just because a paper is published doesn't mean that reviewers don't particularly pick up any problems. So when you are reading, you might find that, hey, by right, this experimental approach should have a control group, but they did not put. Or, probably the locality is probably too wide. They should refine it and be more precise. Those kind of things. So if you find any flaws, if you find anything that doesn't quite seem right, write it down. I want to see how you criticize the paper. So it's a small practice of getting you to be very critical and not always accepting papers as it is. You need to be a scientist that argues well, but not argues for the sake of arguing nak cari pasal, but arguing for the sake that that things can be better, for betterment. And then this last part is, in your point of view, is the research hypothesis well supported that leads to development of a law or theory? So, example, how well studied is the research? Were there formal studies that show consistencies for the article hypothesis? So, again, meaning to say, like, for example, of the theory of evolution by Charles Darwin. Although his experimental design focused on animals of the Galapagos, later on, other scientists applied his work in different regions other than the Galapagos, and is able to be applied for a wide range of animals. So that's more methodology. So if that methodology is applicable for anything on a large global scale, can it be a theory in your opinion? Or you can also give your opinion that, it's more because it's, example, it's just coral, so not to an extent of theory, but it covers, on a smaller scale region. So give that kind of feedback. This is what I want to see from you. Okay. So pretty much that is all for the report. So once you've completed that, all you have to do is submit this on May the 1st. Again, I will change this. And when you are submitting your work, please name your file as group 1. If it's example group 1, write it as MB1_Word. And since you also have to submit the journal, so you write it as MB1_journal. Sorry, this one was Word, this one is journal. So if another one says, example group 16, so it should be MB16_Word, MB16_journal. I should expect 2 documents from you. All right. Is there anything before I open the floor to presentations? No questions? Okay. Now, if this one is combined, it will be too easy. So, want to siksakan you a little bit. So, the smaller groups. The combined ones will be for the for lab 2. Lab 3 will be the small groups again. Is that okay? Thank you. Any other questions? All right.
Doktor.
Yes.
Saya kurang faham lah yang part tu. Part yang doktor cakap yang dependent variable, control variables, experimental group tu. Doktor cakap yang experimental group tu kalau kita macam tak approachable kita punya tu. Saya tak faham yang tempat tu lah.
Okay, what aspect you tak faham actually, my dear?
Yang dia cakap tak perlu buat kalau kita rasa
Okay,
benda tu tak.
okay, understand. Tak perlu buat. Okay, okay, the fact that it's a pertinent group, pertinent observation, again, like contohnya, Jane Goodall's, what do you call this, apa panggil, experimental, sorry, her approach, her observation on chimpanzees and their behavior, okay? So this is more of an observation. It's hard to do a control group unless the journal actually states what the control group is. So more often not with pertinent observations, because it's done in a very big scale and in the field. So example, looking at the migratory route for whales and whatnot. So it's hard to do a control group and it's hard to do an experimental group because experimental group is such that you can control in your means rather than in the wild. So in other words, pertinent observation is in the wild. So tak perlu buat experimental group and control group if your paper is about that. But if your paper is more into experimental designs, then you don't have to answer pertinent observation. Is that clear?
Okay, tak faham dah.
Okay. All right. So, but otherwise, this three should be still applicable. Although it's not control group, but there might be some control variables. But again, for the wild, control variables might be a little bit tricky. Okay, so it really depends on the research you're looking at, which is why in that matter, if you are facing any difficulties, then you have to talk to me about it. But otherwise, these things apply. If you're doing pertinent observation, you don't need to do this too. And if you're doing experimental, you don't need to do pertinent observation. Cool? Any other questions? Okay. The awkward silence shows that none of you actually have any questions. So very good.
Doktor.
Yes, my dear.
Yang untuk last question tu, yang dia cakap ada research tu, yang tu boleh ambil dari tempat lain ataupun kena ambil juga dari journal tu?
Which one? Yang mana? Yang ni ke? Yang last ni ke?
Yang last tu. Were there formal studies that showed consistency semua tu?
Very good question. Yes. So,